Too easy.
That's what she said.
Okay, touche on that one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that can help you save a trip to the store for a can of expensive goose grease. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we are talking about the best Christmas episode of The Office in all of history. I know I feel that way. I think you feel that way too, Brian, right? Is this the best Christmas episode of The Office?
Let me think real quick. I think the only one that might have contention with it is the original Christmas party. But I think this one probably is the best one.
There's good parts of that for sure. The whole conflict of Ryan and Michael and like him changing it to Yankee Swap and hijacking the Christmas. That's great. Then there's just some other like weaker parts of it that don't quite stack up. Because this I feel like is a perfect no-hitter. I don't feel like there are jokes in this episode that I'm like, or storylines that I don't feel like go anywhere. I think just everything is pitch perfect for this episode.
Yeah. And I've known for a long time this is your favorite episode of The Office. I still don't know if I can say what is my absolute favorite episode of The Office. This is in contention, though.
And I think there is a fondness because sometimes, there are other factors besides the actual quality of the show itself. So this was my first exposure to The Office.
Oh, that's what you were saying. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, being completely surprised at how great the writing was on this made me a fan from the get-go. And it was just absolutely fantastic right away. So I think that does boost it. But even then, I don't think I'm too out of line to rank it as high as I do because it is one of the top episodes.
And also, I mean, you're ranking your opinion. You can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't matter if it's unpopular.
Exactly. And so this episode, Benihana Christmas, if you haven't watched it, we're going to go through it little bit by little bit. And we're going to here's the little brief overview here. It is written by Jennifer, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I might butcher it, but it's Jennifer Salata. She wrote some other really good episodes. She wrote Grief Counseling. She wrote Beach Games. She wrote a couple of season finales, including Goodbye Toby and Company Picnic. So she is a really strong writer, even if she did write a little bit like Goodbye Toby and Company Picnic. I think Paul Lieberstein co-wrote with her. Yeah. But very talented writer, did a fantastic job with those episodes. And then it was directed by, you know who it was directed by, right, Brian?
Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis, the Ghostbuster himself, director of Caddyshack, director of a number of other fantastic either Bill Murray or National Lampoon's movies. He is a great director. So it's like there's so much talent in this episode and it just hits perfect. And I don't know if you guys do this. I know a lot of you guys probably watch like your Christmas movies, but if there are Christmas episodes you watch, this should be on your list, your short list of watching Christmas episodes.
So two things. First, I know it's Jen Salata because of the Office Ladies podcast. And actually, if you go back, when they covered this episode, they had Jen Salata and Rashida Jones on both as a guest for that episode. I started to listen to it before we recorded, so I got about 10 minutes into it. And then two, think about I haven't done this in a long time, but I used to go like on binges where like, hey, I'm going to watch like a marathon of Christmas episodes of TV shows. And for some reason, I always start those marathons with the season 1 Community Christmas episode. I don't know why, but that's always the intro to my Christmas episode binge.
Is that the fight with
yeah?
What's
that's
the 80s
Michael
actor?
Anthony Hall.
There you
Michael
go.
Anthony Hall. Yeah, that's that one.
I wanted to call him Michael something instead of that being his middle name. Michael something Hall. Like, there you go. Mm-hmm. Also, speaking of people's names, so this is a gap in my knowledge. I know we need to get the episode because it's gonna be a long episode. I just found out because last month or a month and a half ago, depends on when you're gonna listen to this, Quincy Jones, the legendary producer, he produced the Thriller music video, but he had like big name in the music industry. Yep. He died a month and a half ago. I did not realize Rashida Jones was his daughter. I never knew that until that death.
I always knew that.
I don't know. I just somehow didn't ever hear the trivia of it. So
usually that's the kind of thing that you would know before me.
Yeah, I agree.
Excited about that. Yeah,
it's one of you can't always control the gaps in knowledge you have, and that's one is like, no. I should have known that. I don't know why I didn't. I should have.
There's a lot of stuff that I should know, but I haven't. And a lot of times I just play along. Oh yeah, I've seen that super popular movie or show that I actually haven't seen.
Yeah, people for a long time. Jaws is so great. I'm like, yeah, Jaws is great. I finally watched it like 3 years ago for the first time.
I've seen Jaws. But it was like back in high school. Like I don't remember hardly anything about the movie. I know it has a shark. That's about it.
It's solid. It's almost like two movies because there's like the stuff that happens on the beach, and then when Sheriff Brody gets out on the boat with Quentin or something like that. I can't remember what his name was. I forgot. But the three guys on the boat, like it feels like a completely different film with those three on the boat versus the shark. So, but it's good. It's Steven Spielberg. He's fantastic. So. But speaking of fantastic, Harold Ramis directed Benihana Christmas.
There you
So
go.
let's jump back into this episode because it is a top-notch episode, as we've already said. It starts off with a fine cold open. This cold open, I gotta say, is one of my I can't say it's my favorite, but it's one of my favorite Paul Lieberstein moments. I just really enjoy Toby in this spot because he actually acts like Toby from HR, how you would expect an HR person to act. Like
Yeah.
he is the voice of reason for everyone. He is the gatekeeper to the office because for those, obviously you've seen the episode or you wouldn't be listening. Dwight brings in this goose that he killed. He's going to defeather it and serve it for lunch and was going to be a nice gift to everyone in the office. And, Christmas, he's in the holiday spirit, but obviously this is an issue. And so Toby's trying to talk him down. He's like, we talked about this. And
Right away, it's like, not again. We talked about this. Like, we're already being shown this is a regular occurrence for Dwight.
Yeah. And the reason why it's the not again, this is a great little. So, like, the not again joke is good enough on its own. It's a funny joke. But we find out that Dwight had previously brought in a duck to serve. And then he, in his talking head, he says, well, apparently people got attached to the duck and they didn't want me to kill it. And so I like that extra length that they go in that joke of, not only did he bring in food in the past, but he was going to butcher it in an office space, which was definitely the way past the line.
Yeah. That wouldn't have been funny to see, but it's funny to hear about secondhand.
Agreed. I think it's funnier. I think it's funnier secondhand than it would have been if they would have done that previous. But so they have all of that. That's the cold open. And then finally, Toby, clean it in your car. And Pam, I'd like it off my desk. And Dwight immediately goes from the, please, Toby, please, it's going to be good. And they're like, oh, Pam, take a chill pill. Boom, credits.
Mm. I also heard that wasn't originally going to be at cold open. So that was added later or added partway through filming. It was just going to start with Michael. It was just going to start with Michael coming in with a bike.
Yep. Which is what happens right after the cold open, right after the credits, is that's the first shot that we see. That's the first we see of Michael in this episode. Him riding a bike down the hallway. He's going to give it for the toy drive box. And, I mean, he's making a big deal about this, right? He's kind of doing... Here's our biblical background for you, okay? He's kind of doing an Ananias and Sapphira, right? He's doing like, look at how great I am and how much I'm giving. And this giant, but all of these little trinkets you have in this toy box are just small, but look at this great thing I'm giving. And of course, Jim and a couple others call him out for it, that this is actually his old bike. It's not some brand new one he bought. He's just getting rid of his childhood bike or old one, whatever it is.
Yeah. Matt, do you still have an old bike?
I don't, because I rode a bike for about a week of my life. I learned how to ride a bike. Later that week, I am going down a hill in our neighborhood and I don't know how to brake yet. And I'm trying to figure out how to not do that. I hit a car, flip over the car. It was parked, don't worry. Flip over the handlebars, land on my head, and I'm laying on the ground. I'm like, that's enough biking for one lifetime.
I really would have. I wish that would have been on camera.
Well, I mean, you would have had a lot of like 8-year-old me crying. So
I was picturing you like 13 or 14, where it's a little more acceptable to laugh at you.
And we wonder why preteens have such a hard time with middle school and high school. We've got grown men laughing at them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Guys, Brian's a bully. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
He's got in his display name, he does have Angela in his name. And we have joked tonight how he is the Angela of our relationship. So Brian's leaning into that hard.
I don't know what to call with that, but yeah, my point is that I still out back. I have my old bike from when I was a teenager. I biked all the time. We lived like a block away from the Highland Bike Trails in Bloomington. I spent my life on the bike, but it's like the tires flat, the handlebar covers are missing. It's just junk. But like it's too big to put in the trash. I don't know what to do with it, so it's just sitting out in my back by house.
Yep. Well, after I didn't have anything else I didn't have any more riffing for you. I'm sorry.
Well, you're good. Go ahead. I do that too. Go on with the episode.
That's a great point you bring up, Matt. Anyway, so Michael drops off the bike. Pam hands him a bag, and it's so sweet. You didn't have to do that. I didn't. It's from corporate. I enjoy this B plot of the gifts from corporate. We see a couple of different gifts that corporate gives over the years. This is hands down to me the best one. These robes look so comfortable, right?
They did, yeah.
Okay. I was like, and maybe the part of the reason for that is like they want it to seem like so nice so that it really just drives home how sad it is that Toby doesn't get one.
True, yeah. Although, I mean, I never wear robes. I'm not. How many people wear robes on a regular basis?
My wife does. I don't. I tend to get too hot in them. But
yeah,
if movies are to be believed, like 50-year-old Italian men who are also like mobsters and drug kingpins, they wear nothing but robes. Okay, robes or suits, I guess. Those are it.
I don't know who to check the authenticity of that.
You don't have any 50-year-old Italian mobster friends? You really need to branch out into social circuits.
True.
All right. Where were we at? Nice gift for, and then also in a talking head right after that, Michael gets that. He lays down the very beginning of the conflict. This is the major conflict of the episode, is the breakup with Carol. And so he's so excited. He got his girlfriend tickets to Sandals, Jamaica. He's doing the 2 tickets to Paradise song. Really excited to give it to her. And so then she walks in the door after Creed comes in too and takes his own little toy from the toy drive. We don't get a ton of Creed in this episode, but we get a small little gag there.
Well, there's one more moment later we'll talk about at the end.
Yes. So Carol's here. She comes in, clearly distraught. Michael, excited to see her. He's in his own little mind of, I'm so excited to give her this present. Makes the announcement to the office. I love the way he announces her, right? I don't know who you haven't met yet, but I think this is one of them.
But even before that, I was going to say, like, it's such a bold, like, it shows how much Michael doesn't think. He decides to spring a vacation on his girlfriend, who was a single mom, without trying to coordinate. Hey, are your kids going to be with their dad during this time? Are you free during this time? Just like, oh no, we're going to Jamaica during Christmas.
Well, the kids could come with. I mean, they've already been on a trip together with Michael, right?
In theory.
Yeah. All right. So this is there's some things in early seasons that like Michael does that are like, oh, he just doesn't know better, and sometimes you feel bad for him, and sometimes they're just like so over the top. There's like no one would do this, but like this is like creepo factor 100%. Carol, the reason for the breakup is Michael, without her knowledge, sends out Christmas cards to all of her friends where he took a picture of himself and pasted it over the body of Carol's ex-husband when they were on a ski trip with the kids. And so I like Jim's comment about it. This is one that I'll constantly quote. It's a bold move to Photoshop yourself into a picture with your girlfriend and her kids on a ski trip with their real father. But then again, Michael's a bold guy.
And then, is bold the right word?
Exactly.
But I wonder, in real life, if that was a real photo of, because his girlfriend is his real life wife, Nancy Carell.
Yep.
And you can clearly it's Photoshop, but I wonder if it was really him and then like Photoshopped his face over his face. I mean, it could have been.
Yeah. I think that's a really good theory because I've seen that before. People have talked about that being a possibility, and it probably is. Who knows,
Yeah.
though?
Well, because I know they have 2 kids, and I don't know exactly how old they are, but I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah. Did you know that they did auction off this picture, this fake picture of Steve Carell's face over what is very likely his body as
Mm.
well? But they auctioned that off at a charity drive for United Way, I think,
Huh.
a couple years later,
I've heard,
along
I've
with
heard
like
of
a
that.
signed bobblehead, a couple other items from The Office.
I've heard of United Way. I think it's crazy when people spend like crazy thousands of dollars on like a prop from a TV show. A lot of stuff that'd be cool to have, but I don't have like, oh, I have $10,000 to buy a prop or whatever it goes for.
Depends on the prop and depends on how much expendable income you have.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, who has this? Who has all these? Who has all this expendable income?
Cool people,
Okay.
tech bros.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. I mean, if there is one person who has a disposable income, it is Elon Musk. I mean, there's actually a good amount of them, but he is up
Yes.
there for sure.
All right.
He's like, I kind of want to buy Twitter today. Okay, let's do that.
You mean X?
X, go give it to you. Sorry about that for everyone out there who has ears.
Hey, they chose to listen to this podcast. By
That's
now,
true.
they know what they're into.
Don't tell them that they have freedom of choice because that means they'll be like, I don't need to listen anymore. And then boom, we're done. All right. Well, let's get back to the episode. The ending of Michael and Carol's fight, where Michael not reading the room at all.
No.
Asks her, well, hey, this is gonna fix it. I've got 2 tickets and the whole, so pack your skimpiest bikini that there is, and just the look of disgust on her face. And so she leaves, like, hey, if you walk out that door, it's over. I know. So she leaves. End scene. The inciting incident for their conflict. Here's the other conflict of the episode. I'm sorry, did you have something more to say there?
Well, no, I mean, there's 2 conflicts. There's Michael, and then there's Angela Karen.
And then here is a character conflict, because this episode, it's a lot about Michael, but there's a lot. They spread it around well. Like, there's the Angela versus Pam and Karen, but I think for what they do for character development is that they develop Michael, they develop Karen and Pam, and they definitely develop Jim. And so here's Jim's big internal conflict. He is ushered over to Pam's desk because she has a Christmas present for him. And her present is that she has been secretly writing letters to Dwight from the CIA. And so that she's been prepping him for the secret mission. And now Jim gets to be the one who gives what that secret mission is. And so what Jim does here is he's like, I think I'm too, I can't do that because of my number 2 position here. I think I'm kind of outgrowing this stuff. I need to have this fresh start in Scranton, which I understand, but we're going to get into why that's a load of crap, even in this episode.
And you say development. I mean, by the end of the episode, he comes around on that, and then we have 6 more years of him pranking Dwight still.
Yeah, but we'll get more to it, because it's not even so much about that, because like it's not about the new start of not being the prankster on Dwight. It's about he left because of Pam, and he left from the rejection, and he started this new life, and this new man sans Pam. And in fact, when he starts dating Karen, we don't even see him start dating her while he's in Stanford. The first time we hear that they are a couple is when he's back in Scranton, which leads me to believe that he asks her out at one of the last times in Stanford, so that when they move to Scranton, that he comes back to the office with a new girlfriend, to like that it wasn't just some failed thing that happened. He's back. He's number 2. He's this new person. It's all about trying to avoid that pain he felt at the end of season 2 when Pam rejected him, and saying like, no, I'm this new person now.
Do you think on some level, even if he didn't realize it, his whole relationship with Karen was about Pam from the start?
actually in this episode, I'm sure we can jump around. We'll get to that scene, but I think that's the whole point of the scene where he's talking with Michael. And I love this scene at the end of the episode when Michael like confesses, "Hey, I marked the waitress's arm," and they laugh about it. And Jim's like, "Are you kidding me?" But then Jim kind of tells him this whole thing is like, "Well, what you just had was a rebound, and sure, rebounds are great, but at the end of it, you're left thinking about the one person that you actually care about." And there's no doubt in my mind that Jim isn't fooling himself when he's saying that. He knows that Karen's a rebound. He knows he still loves Pam. I don't think he's deluded enough to think that he doesn't.
I get that, but then he also, at the same time, he dates Karen until the very end of the season. So I wonder if he tried to really make a go of it, like, hey, can I fall in love with my girlfriend, or and then he realized that he can. I wonder if that was the kind of his.
Yeah, because he dumped Purse Girl in a mean way because he cared about Pam, and then he's trying not to do that again, I think, and especially because at a certain point too, that Pam starts to come back to Roy. And so I think you put yourself in Jim's point of view, he can't read the tea leaves, so to speak, that Pam actually does love him and would maybe accept him now. He thinks, I took my shot. She said no. That is never going to change. We're done. That I have to move on. And so he's trying to respect that decision. Also seeing her maybe get back and closer with Roy and still knows he has to move on. And this might be his shot. So I think that's why he works so hard to try and convince himself that he loves Karen, but that he keeps her to arm's length regardless.
Yeah. Because I think he could have been happy with Karen. I mean, just because they were an okay couple. If it weren't for the fact that internally he was just always about Pam.
Yeah, and this is a great episode to show that conflict that he has, even though he's kind of from the outside looking in at the Pam and Karen, because I think it's actually easier for him if they're not getting along. But Pam and Karen are actually getting along. They're banding together and they're fighting the tyrant Angela and her party planning committee. And so I think that makes him uncomfortable because he's like, I can't have them like each other. I think it's easier for him to like Karen if she's not so good of friends with Pam. Here's one of my favorite scenes. This was like, again, flashback to first time ever seeing this show. I'm laughing up to this point. It's a good show so far. It's funny. Michael's announcement to the office about canceling Christmas is one of the funniest scenes in this episode. It's tremendous. Huge props to Steve Carell and the looks he has on his faces and how he does this. All of it's great. He comes out, Christmas is canceled, back and forth Stanley, you can't cancel a holiday. And keep it up, Stanley, you'll lose New Year's. And what does that mean? Jim, take New Year's away from Stanley.
But not only that's impressive because he's saying, take New Year's away from Stanley, while he's like through tears.
Yes.
That's impressive to fake because he's like really making himself choke up and cry and do that. I can't do that. I'm not good at the fake tears.
There's this whip pan to Jim after the Jim take away New Year's from Stanley where he looks at the camera, but like in a very like, well, what am I supposed to do with this sort of way? Great. One of the top Jim mugs the camera looks I think that there is. So then Pam being caring, Michael, what's going on? And Carol and I split up amicably. And love this. If you haven't seen this for a while, rewatch this scene. He loses the steam in this line, and I just don't think it would be appropriate to celebrate under the circumstances. And then like cuts off his mouth with like kind of a half smile, half. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like top tier face acting from Steve Carell.
Also, bold move on trying to play it off as amicable when like 5 minutes ago you're like, hey, look, here's my girlfriend. Check out her from the backside.
Yeah. Some of the overlapping chatter. Jim's, will they still air Rudolph? Kevin, it's not fair. Dwight, are we canceling Hanukkah as well? And then Michael's like, okay, fine. Everyone will have the party, just no guests. And
with those, like Dwight, unlike Jim and Kevin are kind of either saying, oh, this isn't, you can't do this, or like Jim's just mocking him. Dwight doesn't even question it. Dwight is legitimately asking, "Are we also going to cancel Hanukkah?" Like he's trying to be on Team Michael, and he's just trying to get all the facts straight.
And likely, based on how Hanukkah usually falls, they're probably in the middle of Hanukkah when this episode is supposed to be taking place. So he's probably like, wait, how do we go? How do we change this around? Are we done? Are we done after 4 days?
Wait, is anyone in the office Jewish? Do we know?
Not that they've made a storyline about.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Might be, but I don't think we've seen that from any characters.
Okay, no hidden menorahs or anything.
No, it's not the time of oppression for them anymore. They can have the menorahs out for everyone to see.
I suppose it's the right time for it. Just,
look, everyone. I know the Jewish people have had a long time of oppression, but we're finally at a spot that they can display their menorahs loud and proud, man.
I thought you were just going to stop at, "I know the Jewish people."
Look, I know Jewish people. All right, they're friends. We're friends. We get along.
They told me that it's okay.
They told me this. All right. So, by the way, the hypocrisy of Michael. You can't bring your guests. And Phyllis, we've already invited our guests. So they all have to call up and say, "Hey, you can't come to the Christmas party." Meanwhile, when Michael comes back to the Christmas party, him and Andy have got these waitresses on their arms and walks into the party with these guests. Hypocrisy.
I never thought of that, actually.
Well, there you go. Now, open your eyes to the horror of Michael Scott.
And no one calls him on that. That's something that, Phyllis of like season 6 or 7 would have called Michael out on that. At this point in the series, she was still a little bit more timid.
All right, and then last line of Michael's in this, all of your guests would have probably canceled at the last minute anyway, leaving your life a stupid, rotten mess. And then like the smile on his face and trying to hold it together. Again, just the juxtaposition between his pained vocal performance and his face, like trying to be, I'm so strong and carrying through for all of this.
Yeah.
But it's funny because obviously he has like this, I need comfort. I need people to pity me. I need it to be about me. So what does he do? He lays down behind Pam's desk and just, oh, it hurts. It hurts. And he's like, it hurts my heart, hurts my stomach, my arms. And Pam, well, why are you laying like that?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. It's just kind of that obnoxious, look at me, I need attention kind of deal.
Exactly. Yep. Fun scene. Dwight comes over while he's complaining, and we're one bathrobe short, and just without missing a beat, take it from Toby, and it's just Dwight like, yes, copy, and he's got his mission, and he goes off, and still Michael's like, Pam, would you go to Sandals with me? It's all and she's like, no, thank you. It's, oh, okay.
Yeah. And it is the first of Carol and then Pam. He invites, I think, 4 people. We'll count them as we go to Sandals with him. We're at 2 for people who he invited to go to Sandals with him. And also, just on a practical note, we probably could have just said, "Hey, we have one too few robes. Anybody want to give theirs up?" Somebody probably would have said fine, but that's not as funny as just take it from Toby.
Plus, Toby doesn't deserve a robe in his eyes anyway.
No.
Which another great Toby moment here when Dwight just yanks it. Oh, hey, Dwight. Dwight just takes the robe away, walks. Why? All right. Other conflict. Now, this is the actual plot conflict. We have the 2 plots. This is probably the A plot in terms of conflict, because even though the Carol stuff is really big and Michael makes everything about him, the actual plot of things are moving forward about the 2 parties. And so this first scene here, Karen is sitting in on the party planning committee, and she's trying to give some ideas of like, oh, this is what we do at Stanford. And Angela's like, oh, these are terrible ideas. It would never work here, even though the ideas she gives are great. And they obviously would work there, because later in the episode, we see all of them pretty much working.
Yeah.
And so then Angela kicks her out. Those are all terrible ideas. None of them are in the theme of a Nutcracker Christmas. And so has her long thing about, we tried this out. Clearly it's not for you. And then Karen like looks around for any sort of support from anyone. Everyone's kind of like just looking down, not making eye contact. She gets up and leaves.
Yeah. And then is this where Pam goes to console Karen, or does that come later?
Not quite. The next scene, we'll go very quick on this, but I only wanted to bring it up. Well, it does move the plot along, but this is the most dated joke that anyone who watches The Office now would like not understand this at all. So Michael is in the office listening to James Blunt's "Goodbye, My Lover" on the computer, and Dwight's helping him put away all of Carol's old stuff. And after a certain time, the music runs off, and you see Michael look back at the computer, double click, and then the song starts playing again. They had on the iTunes store back then, you could play like the preview of the song, but without having to pay for it. And so like each song was like $1, $2 in order to download. That's how they would piecemeal it back in the early 2000s. And if you were not sure you wanted to buy it, you could listen to the preview and be like, oh yeah, I do like the song, or I don't like it. So instead of buying the song, he's just sitting there playing it over and over. And Dwight even asks him, why not just buy it? It's like, well, I don't need it. Just a flavor, just a taste, I think is what he says.
Is iTunes still a thing? I mean, I might still have it, but I haven't used it in years.
I think it's called the Apple Store now. Not the Apple Store, but I don't know if the iTunes brand is still what it's labeled as, but it exists in that version of. It's kind of like the Android Store, but for Apple, obviously, and It's not just songs anymore.
Well, yeah,
because they have Apple Music. And I think that's replaced the iTunes brand in terms of the music side of it. And they've changed it to like more of a subscription model like Spotify or Pandora.
Yeah. And I think most of those you can find us on there.
Yeah, exactly. We're there. And if you're listening to us on those platforms, you're welcome. That's modern technology, baby.
And watch that clip of you saying that's modern technology. If someone's listening to us 10 years in the future, they're like, oh my gosh, they were still using Apple Music back then.
I'm just glad we've lived on for the 10 years. I really hope we live on for 10 years, but I meant our podcast.
So you think you're going to die in 10 years?
Oh, I'm planning on it. The way I live, my lifestyle, I'm lucky to get 5. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, so
just breeze past it.
Breeze on past. So next scene is the Karen Pam scene where Pam comes over to console and just like, hey, I like this idea. And this pretty much like everything that Karen said, Pam's like, this would be a good idea. Can we do this? Can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
So
but it's like the first time we really see them becoming buddy. And is it here where Jim kind of looks over at them nervously?
Exactly. Yep. This is when he starts to see that. I don't think he has yet that talking head because he has one where it's like, that's just what you want to see: the Stanford branch and the Stanton or Scranton branch coming together, and like that's what you want, right? But obviously, the stand-ins of that are his old love, and his new love coming together. It's like, that should be good. That should be what he wants, but clearly he doesn't like that. And I don't think he even knows why he doesn't like that.
True.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because Pam's not even his ex.
No. I mean, yeah, she did reciprocate the kiss, but she did flat out turn him down too. Yeah. So it is clear that there was a part of her that likes him, but that she can't allow herself, or at that time she couldn't allow herself to be with him because of Roy.
Yeah.
Yep. So, little brief scene that's another great one with Toby. I really like this. Toby doesn't get a robe storyline. It's so small. It's just these little minor things, but Kevin's in the kitchen. Toby comes in. Hey, Kev, puts his hand on his shoulder, feels the softness of the robe, and leaves his hand there a bit too long for comfortability's sake, because he's just feeling the softness of the robe. But Kevin looks at the camera like, what is this guy doing? It's a really great 10-second moment. I love it.
It's also like a rare time where Kevin is the straight man in a joke, and those moments kind of went away over time.
Yes, agreed. All right, so now just a continuation of the Karen, Angela, Pam storyline is that they're all putting up their posters. Angela puts up the Nutcracker theme poster, and Karen and Pam have the more brightly colored party, the Margarita Christmas. What
Yeah.
is the committee to plan parties?
Committee to plan parties, and it was a margarita karaoke Christmas.
Yes, that's it. So I mean, that's like all those things are Meredith. That's up her alley completely.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
But
Kelly who's like, "Hey, that sounds fun."
it is. Yeah, she's the one who
Yeah.
points it out. Kevin comes up. He's confused. And it's like, no. I understand this is confusing for everyone. Let me explain. There's a party that starts at 3, and then there's a way more fun party that starts at 2:45. And
Yeah.
it's just like the whole scene is like, how can we one up? What's your budget? $200. Oh, ours is $201. It is super petty from Pam and Karen, but at the same time, she is a Karen, and Angela is acting way more of a Karen than anyone in the office ever has had the history of doing. So
It's a little confusing when there's a Karen in the scene who's not being a Karen,
she's being
but
out
Angela,
Karen hard.
yeah. So Angela's being the metaphorical Karen, while the actual Karen is not a Karen.
Yes. So then
Explain that.
So Angela goes to the one person who thinks that they have the power to shut this down. Dwight comes in and he's like, I order you to cease and desist and turning over all of your Christmas decorations and party paraphernalia that will be returned in January. Jim steps in as actual number 2 in the office. Great Jim moment, where he forms his own committee to determine the validity of the two
committee to determine the validity of the two committees, and I'm now in session.
And Dwight, this is stupid.
I'm in session, and then of course Dwight plays along like committee permission to join the validity committee.
Jim thinks for a moment, permission denied. Like, and the face that he makes too, like, I wanted to do it. I wanted to help you out, buddy. I just couldn't swing it.
Yeah,
it's a great Jim moment. I really enjoy that, and you can call that a prank. It's prank-ish. It's prank adjacent.
Yes, kind of. It's more so just helping them like shut down a Karen, basically.
Absolutely, yes. And so, like, no one, if Jim's like, I want to turn over this new leaf, no one's faulting Jim in this moment for the way he handled it, because he handled it well in a way that does actually shut that down, even though it does keep up that divide of the two parties in the office, etc. All right, let's jump back to the Benihana quadro. There's 4 of them that go.
Well, it's about that's about to get going, right? Is when they go. Well, first it starts with Andy.
Exactly. Andy's the guy. He comes in. He's like, I know you can't concentrate when you're in pain. Let's go to lunch. It's my treat. Which this guy buying Benihanas, like Benihanas isn't cheap, man.
No, but he's got Bernard money.
That's true. What am I smoking? He's a trust fund baby.
Yeah, he can buy all those props.
And so we get one of the few Ryan moments of this episode. We don't have a lot of them, but this moment here when Michael's like, all right, well, I've got to get my entourage. So he invites Jim, Dwight, and Ryan using we're going to Asian Hooters. So Ryan shuts it down. I can't. I'm not feeling well. I've got a ton of work to do. MSG allergy, peanut allergy. I just ate there last night. Like, all the different excuses. And so when Jim's like, he can't think of something himself, he's like, well, thanks for taking all the excuses. And Ryan's doctor appointment, car trouble, plantar warts, granddad fought in World War II. Use your head, man. I keep mine in here, and pulls up his BlackBerry.
Yep. And this is a little bit different than like the douchey Ryan that will kind of become a little bit later. I think Ryan becomes douchey as soon as he becomes the corporate manager and never stops after that point. At this point, it's more so like a game
douche
with him
adjacent.
He's douche adjacent, yes. Because when he says that, he's smiling at Jim. It's like they're playing a game and he just one upped them. But it's like I don't think there was really animosity there.
Yeah, we don't get too many just purely positive interactions with Jim and Ryan through the course of the show.
No.
And even though it's still an antagonistic almost, where it's like, oh, you took all those from me, whatever. It's like the wink, nudge, sort of like, haha, you got me. That's funny.
Yeah.
And Jim laughs it off. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Great little talking head from Michael here. His bros before hoes speech.
Oh yeah,
love it. She was the only hoe for you. She was better than all the other hoes in the world. And then suddenly she's not yo ho no mo.
And I believe, isn't this the scene that talking head, we see them watching that in the movie Neighbors? There's a clip of them watching The Office.
I don't think I ever saw Neighbors, so I don't know.
Okay, I think I saw it. I think that's the case.
All right, well let's get to Benihana's. Just want to throw out there's some casual sexism / racism in this episode and in the show, of course, in general. But Andy's little. This is where we catch up with him, where he's like, and I said to her, she looks really hot, so I said, you look hotter than usual today. I'm like, boy, if that is not like douchey Andy before he gets his anger management change that they give him at the end of this season.
But also, it's completely in Andy's mind. He is being super sweet and charming, and he expects them to go, "Oh, that's so great!" Like he's so tone deaf. Yes. He thinks that's an amazing line.
Speaking of tone deaf, there are 2 extras in this scene. They're not extras because they do have lines. Not many, but they have lines. But they all get seated at the table, and they go Andy. Then next to him is Michael. Then in between, then next to Michael is Jim, and then Dwight's going to sit next to Jim. But this couple sit down, and the guy kind of squeezes in to sit there, and Dwight was, I was gonna he starts to be like, I'm gonna sit there, and Michael's like, no, don't bother them. They seem happy. They're great. Go sit at the end there. No one in their right mind would ever break up a obvious group of 4 to be like, yeah, I'll sit in the middle. Because if they do that, you are some of the worst type of people. That is so selfish. And I don't feel bad that Michael eats off your plate. That's what you get. You deserve that.
Or that Dwight starts talking about killing a goose right over you.
Exactly. So
just scoot one over, but it's not funny otherwise.
Yeah, you're right. It's not funny. Obviously, it's a TV show. Obviously, it's set up for that. But scoot over one. You guys can still sit next to each other without separating the group like jerks. All right.
Yeah.
Got it. We're done. All right. So there is, speaking of that, this is funny. It's good quality that Michael, or not, the Jim prank, where Dwight's trying to stay in the conversation and asking her question, or asking questions, which, by the way, really like Michael's line where he's trying to just reminisce about Carol. She used to get this little foam mustache, and I used to say, hey, got latte? And she'd say, that's not funny. I just...
That little nugget there of she used to say, got latte? That's in my mind, because if you watch the season 3 DVD, the main menu it's that little clip of audio. And I mean, I watch it on Peacock now because it's more convenient, but I used to watch the DVDs all the time, and so I would always pull in the DVD and I would go to that same got latte. She would say, that's not funny, and so that's just was burned in my brain.
Yeah. Actually, I did kind of skip, because they come back and forth on this, where there is the drain the bucket and the blood and that little prank. So I jumped the gun. We hadn't quite gotten there because there's a couple scenes where it jumps back to at the office. But since I'm already talking about it, I'll say it. That's a great silly Jim prank thing. But the cameramen call Jim on it. They're like, well, what's the difference there? And he's trying to justify. It's like, no, that's way different. And he starts trying to think the other stuff was pranks. This is like, okay, that's pretty much the same.
Yeah. And that's when he kind of realizes, okay, maybe that's where he gets in his mind. Like, I don't have to take myself this seriously. And does that kind of lead him to actually coming around with Pam at the end?
Yeah. And I think he's more okay with it because she's not around. Because this new Jim is all about performing for Pam. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. I mean, he maybe a little bit, the same amount that any normal human does, but he cares very deeply what Pam thinks of him. And he's okay if Dwight or Michael still think it's the same old Jim. That's not anything for him. He just wants Pam to know he's okay without her, and he's successful and he's fine without her.
Yes.
All right, so back to the office, where Angela, or no, I'm sorry, Karen and Pam are trying to figure out what they're going to do, and Phyllis is in the break room. She's like, "Hey, you should put out some salt for the rims." And like she's starting to contribute to them, and Angela comes in and like, "No, Phyllis," she's like, "I'm just getting a snack." Pam's like, "You can have your snack in here." Pam, don't tell her what to do. Phyllis, just the daggers look Angela gives her.
This must have been really, really fun for Pam or for in real life, Jenna and Angela to actually have so many scenes together like this.
Yeah. I didn't rewatch the Superfans episode, and I don't have the Superfans transcript in front of me. But right after that scene, there's a couple talking heads, and in the Superfans, they pretty much got talking heads from everyone that was in the office. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of them that were still in the office. They only used Kevin and Ryan's, where Kevin was I think I'll go to Angela's party because that's the party I know, and Ryan I miss the days when there was only one party I didn't want to go to.
I don't remember any other. I watched it. There's two moments I can think of that I think are extra. One comes later with Stanley. The other one is when Angela goes to Toby, which I think is coming up. I don't remember any other talking heads besides that. Was there more?
There was. I just don't remember what they were. Like I can remember like seeing Oscar or Stanley talk about it. I just don't remember.
Well, Oscar's not there. Remember, Oscar's
right,
still on his
Oscar.
vacation.
Yeah. Who was I? Stanley, and I thought there was someone else.
Maybe Stanley probably says something like, "I don't care about parties" or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I just watched it. I probably should know, but
way to not remember.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it here where Angela talks to Toby, or does that come a little bit later?
I don't know. I can't remember. We're recording just a day earlier than we usually do, and I didn't get my chance to watch the Superfans episode like I was going to in preparation for this. So I had to choose my different preparation, and I left that off. So that's, if you're like, why doesn't he know what he's talking about? A, welcome to the show. You must be new here. B, that's why.
Okay, well, if it's not coming up, should we talk about that little scene now?
Go ahead.
So was this in the actual aired episode all? Because Angela goes to Toby and basically says like, make them stop, and then he's telling her, I'm like, well, it's a free country, and if she wants to throw a party with her own money, she should be allowed to. And Angela actually slaps Toby across the face, and it's just kind of a moment, and he's like, ow, and she's like, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just need you to wake up to what's going on. And then Toby says, you cannot you cannot touch another coworker. I'm going to write you up for this now. And then the best part at the very end, Angela goes, Michael was so right about you.
I do remember that now that you say that.
So I think that might be longer in Superfans, but I think it was part of that was in the regular episode, I think.
I don't think any of that was in the original. I feel pretty confident that none of that is in the original.
Okay. But that was really funny.
That I'm like 90-something% that
none
of it is. But I can't say 100% until I get to the end of this transcript that I've got to remind. These are my notes, guys. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we have a very brief scene that is setting up. This is more about later in the show, and there's a little bit more of a Pam Roy moment in this episode, but this first little one is Pam helping Roy with how you wrap presents, which, by the way, Pam's line of, if you're using more than 3 pieces of tape to wrap a present, you're doing it wrong. That don't gatekeep present wrapping, Pam. Listen, 3 pieces of tape are not enough. I don't care how good you are. Sure, you can make it work, but no, use the amount of tape that you need to use. Don't you listen to this Pam nonsense.
And you can, I like wrapping gifts. I use way more than 3. I once wrapped a crowbar, and actually I wrapped it like in wrapping paper so you could see the hole. You can basically tell what it was. I used tons of tape on that thing.
Yeah. And then we have another line that's written just because of the narrative and the sitcom, and probably not something someone would say at this point in their friendship. Karen comes up after Roy leaves and says, oh, he's cute. You should date him. Like, you can maybe be like, oh, he's cute. Is he like, like kind of nudge about like, oh, he might be a cool guy. You can ask those questions. It's not out of the realm of possibility for them to try and bond over that, and Karen to be like, hey, cute boy, what do you think about him? That sort of thing. But it's such a pointed line to get the point across, and they can't spend too much time on it, that it comes off disingenuous. And it's like,
Yeah.
this isn't how someone would broach that topic.
I think it'd be believable if they were closer friends than they were, because they're just now
Yeah.
becoming friends.
Exactly. And my wife, like, every time we watch it, I feel like she says the same thing. The voice you're hearing right now, it's mine, but it's mainly her. Like, we both agree. I think she cares more about this than I do. And so I hear it every time we watch it, so you can hear it as well.
Yeah. I just imagine when we do these breakdowns, you watch the episodes with Angie so that she tells you all the smart things to say.
Yeah, she does. That's true. I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Well, we get back to the restaurant. Dwight has a small conversation with the actual chef who's making the food. I'm not going to say this is a hit, or I'm sorry, that this is a miss in terms of comedy. This might be the weakest, like, 20-second scene in this episode. It doesn't do anything for me where he's trying to insist he knows better about knives than the chef does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The only thing is, though, the line, I think he would know. I've had someone say that exact same thing about me, because it was a scavenger hunt at Mall of America when I worked at Mall of America, and I was saying something, and someone else was like, no, I don't think that's where that is. And someone was like, I think he would know, because I worked at the mall at the time.
Yeah. You right after this, you have same setting, but now it moves over to Andy and Michael, and Andy's trying to cheer him up, and they're like, oh, watch, he's going to do the onion thing, it's going to be great. And he does, and then Michael finally starts to actually smile. It's working. Andy's the right guy, surprisingly, for helping Michael out of this. So what Andy's doing, as much as we dog on him, it's working. I don't know how the guy got it. He's doing it.
Maybe it's because he's the same kind of, like, awkward attention seeker that Michael is, and so of course they're going to be thinking the same way.
Yeah. We're gonna jump back to the office. This is a line that it's kind of fun. Like, I remember seeing this episode with my parents at one point. They weren't the first ones I watched it to, but they, like, after I watched it for the first time on my own, I think I showed this episode to them and had them watch. And Angela's not always a funny character to me. She's there to be, like, a conflict and there for people to, like, laugh at. But she has a couple of things here. And this is one moment that she's funny in this episode, where Pam's going to announce that the party's starting, and Angela's, I also have another important announcement to make about your paychecks. The only thing she has actual power over that will actually stop them from doing anything else. So then she realizes, hey, I have to check in to see if I have the authority. And this is
well, before that, she's like, your paychecks will be arriving on the normal day, and they will be in the correct amounts. And they're like, oh wait, hold on. And then the funny thing is that she's leaving the room, and she's like, stay tuned for more information about your paychecks. And, like, everyone knows she's panicking, but she's calling Dwight for permission. Go ahead.
Because it's like, what are they going to do if you start the party 15 minutes earlier than what is designated? It's not like the fact that she has to run it up the chain to Michael. Because even when she calls Dwight and asks him about it, and he's at the other side of the table, and she's like, do I have permission to start this? And he's like, yeah, you know what? Start the party. And she's like, did Michael give you permission to do this? And he's like, I've got the, I'm the authority now. Start the party. And, like, I bet he feels like such a rebel for that. It's like, really, no one cares.
No. Do either of them think that Michael would really oppose that?
Yeah. I don't think he would, obviously.
No. But like, and they know that. They know Michael.
It's the rule following. It's the hierarchy. Yeah. They're all about the hierarchy and the rules and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
which is why they're in trouble, I guess.
Kind of like how Angela, I mean, she has a tight rein on saying she's the head accountant.
Yes. All right. Well, we're about halfway through the episode. So this is the very first of any Office episode that's an hour long. This is the very first one that hit that hour mark. So if you're watching it like on Peacock or something like that, we're about to be at that spot where we have the break in between part 1 and part 2. And that's Angela comes in. I want to inform you also as a special treat, our party's starting early. Then just like back and forth. Yep, the party's starting. So they're both doors are open. Both parties are ready. Stanley stands up, looks to both sides, and then it does the break to either commercial if you're watching it live or break for the episode and get to part 2.
Oh, here's another super fan part is that we're talking about talking with Stanley, because Stanley says, I went to the party in the break room because there's more chairs. If I stand around too much, I'm going to be cranky or something like that.
And that is absolutely a Stanley reason.
Yeah.
I think Stanley would have gone for the margaritas too. He seems like a pro alky sort of guy. Like, yeah, I'll go where I can get drunk.
Especially if he has to stay at work.
Yeah, that's the Florida Stanley speaking through him.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like, even though it's not Karen versus Pam on either side, it kind of does feel like, as Stanley stands up and he looks to both sides and he's stuck in the middle. And I know Jim's not there either. Just for whatever reason, I feel like there's that feeling of same thing with Jim, that Jim at a certain point, he has to decide who he's going with. And like, that's why he doesn't like seeing them come together, because the more closer they are together, the harder it's going to be to pick the direction he goes with and stick to that direction. So I don't know if there's any sort of intention for that idea and that imagery, but I get it. So whether they intended it or not, that's what I'm walking away with.
I can see that for sure.
So I want to give you one of my most quoted lines that I say outside of the Office. I think really
you've told me this before, but I like this. Yeah,
it's such a dumb, like, of all the lines. So they're deciding going to the party. Stanley goes to the Karen and Pam. Hannah comes over to the Angela's. Why would you will not be disappointed. Why would I be disappointed? I said you won't be. Then Meredith stands up to walk away. Angela says, Meredith, if you don't come to my party, you'll be very, very sorry. These are the two lines I quote. Is that a threat? No, it's an invitation. I love that interchange so much, or that exchange so much, and I will oftentimes ask, is that a threat? No, it's an invitation.
So you've told me that's like your dad line that you used to use on your kids. Okay, which of your kids do you say that to the most, do you think?
I say it more to Angie, not like that I'm threatening her or whatever, but it's just like she catches the reference. So
I suppose it's always funnier when you have the right audience.
Yes. Yeah. I can't even give you good examples of when I use it outside of it, but it comes up surprisingly often. Another one that comes up surprisingly often is from Friends with Chandler and Joey when they come to the new apartment and well, you guys quit fighting. You're ruining moving day for us. I usually do that, except for it's just, well, you guys start fighting, you're ruining, and then something. Because moving day is too specific to apply casually to anything else.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are quotes that I use a lot. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, here's a quote that I know you always say. Angela's party will have double fudge brownies. It'll also have Angela. Double fudge, Angela.
True. Yeah.
You always say that.
Yes, always. Yes, that's my name on StreamYard here is double fudge ... Angela.
So Kevin becomes the second and last person in the office to come to the party, because it's, Angela and Phyllis, they put it on because they're the party planning committee. Hannah chooses it of her own volition, and Kevin chooses it because of the double fudge brownies. And
but you
that's
can see
it.
Both Kevin and Phyllis want to be at that other party.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Dwight does too when they come back, because he's with Angela and he's supporting her. I apologize. He's the third one.
Yeah. And then, we'll get to it. I was skipping ahead to Daryl, but we'll skip ahead there.
Very briefly, Karen and Pam talking head. Are we taking this too far? You know what? I don't think we're taking this far enough. And Pam's, I got goosebumps. Back to Angela's talking head. This is another. My mom laughed at like 3 Angela lines in this episode when I first introduced her to it, and this is one of them. My sister and I used to be best friends. We haven't talked in 16 years over some disagreement I don't even remember. So yeah, I'm pretty good.
And then they brought this up because I recently listened to the finale of the Office Ladies podcast that got to the end of it. Because in that one, Angela has a sister that she's super close with, and then they're like, "What about this super long grudge?" And Angela Kinsey believes that it's a third sister that she has the grudge in, and that's not the sister she was close with in the finale.
That's fair. Look at that. Look at her coming up with her own backstory. Take that, writers. All right, we already talked a bit about this. Back to the Benihana, and I think this is the last we see of the Benihana's group before they come back to the office. The Michael eating off of the other person's plate, and then also Andy doing the. I don't even know what Andy's doing here. There's like, I want you to close your eyes and imagine your dream house, and like, what is this thing he's doing? What is he going for with this?
Well, in the big picture, he's trying to flirt, but I don't know what he's doing to flirt. Like, what is the game? That's the thing. I don't get it.
Exactly. No idea. And it clearly doesn't work because when they show up at the party, it's not the waitresses that they had. It's 2 other waitresses, random ones from the party or from the restaurant. We'll get to that in a second. But then they do the narcolepsy, the goose, how to butcher a goose, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that. So let's jump back to the office. We're actually at the Margarita Christmas. There's no karaoke yet, but Stanley enjoys his drink. It's fruity and delicious. You want one, Meredith? No, they're too sweet. She just grabs the whole bottle of whatever it is that goes into margarita, whatever alcohol it is. I don't know alcohol very well.
Yeah.
Is it rum? No, vodka?
I think tequila.
Tequila? Man, just even my guesses of that. It's kind of like Cece trying to make a drink in front of Schmidt. Oh, definitely not the absinthe. Yeah. You'd be crazy to put the absinthe in there.
I actually just watched that episode last week because I'm in the middle of a New Girl rewatch with Sabrina.
Nice. Good show to rewatch. I like New Girl a lot.
Yep. And then actually, you'll be happy. Next, we decided after New Girl, we're going to go into What We Do in the Shadows.
There you go. Yeah, they just had their so real quick, in a couple weeks we do this every single year. We talk about, hey, what's some of the new TV that came to television in 2024. So we kind of go over what some of those are and the good, the bad. Try and talk more about good than we do bad. And What We Do in the Shadows had its new season this year. So it's we're a couple episodes in on that. So we can talk about that in a couple weeks as well.
Yeah.
All right. Back to finally we get Daryl popping in. He sees the party and they're like, oh, we don't have anything for the karaoke. He's like, I'll go grab my synthesizer. On the way out, he pops in. I love how dismissive he accidentally is because he stops in the break room. Hey, when you guys are done with your meeting, they're having a party over there.
Yeah.
Because they just look like they're all in a prison.
Yeah. And well, I mean, and half of them are because Phyllis is always like, is it fun over there? What are they doing? Like, if it weren't for the fact that she is so under Angela's thumb, she never would have chosen that one.
Like when Ryan comes out to get his coat. Cold, huh? Yeah, maybe that'll help. Is it cold in there?
It's so sad.
Just her and Kevin. Just let us out, please.
Phyllis and Kevin both become very different people by the end of the show.
Yes, they do. I was wrong. We do go back to the Benihana restaurant just to set up that Andy's like, oh, those girls have been checking us out all night. I'm not kidding. We should ask them to the Christmas party. And so, yep. Oh, they're going to do it. That's great. And then next scene is them walking in. So Greg Daniels had said, I think it was Greg Daniels, someone behind the scenes had said that the initial concept of this joke, because they ask about these 2 girls at these waitresses at Benihana. The ones they show up with at the office are not the same ones. And so they have 2 completely different girls, the ones instead of the ones they were flirting with. And the idea was supposed to be like that, you know, when like, oh, we should ask him out. Yeah, that's going to be great. Boom. Okay, you're such a mensch. Haha. And then we cut to it didn't work, obviously. So they had to find two other ones. And technically they're saying they were supposed to be uglier. And so they tried not to doll them up quite as much as the other girls were at the restaurant. And he's just like, that joke it didn't translate. It just kind of fell on its face. And so if you were wondering, that's why there's two different waitresses.
Well, I took it as the ones that they came back with were like younger and like had lower standards. And it's like, okay, cool, we'll go with whatever. We'll hang out with these guys. It's just kind of a party, whereas the original ones were kind of like a little bit older, more put together, and we're like, no, we're not going to go with these strange, weird guys. Like that's kind of like how I read it. Not so much ugly, just like, you know, younger.
And I think that's a great interpretation because you're absolutely right that they are younger. And I mean, one of them, they use the excuse, "Oh, I got school." So
yeah, because one of them becomes the third person that Michael asks to go to Sandals with him. Carol, Pam, the girl, and the waitress. Yeah.
And so they come in, and Michael just is like, "Oh, here's this bike. You tell you what, you want it? It's yours." And so instead of making the big gesture that he did at the beginning of the episode, he just gives it to this waitress he met. And then they stop into the break room or the conference room where there's the party, and it's terrible in there. And it's just, "Where's Dwight?" I love the waitress. "Is he the hot one or the giant baby?" And Michael, "The giant baby." And so he's like, "I'm sorry, I had no idea this party would be so lame." And so Phyllis bails him out. There's another party in the break room. Like, oh, thank God. So they're walking away. The waitress grabs the nutcracker. Like, "Oh, I thought I could have this." Which, the entitlement. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Like, anything at a party, unless it's like a brownie or food or something, why do you just think you can have that?
One of the few times I'll side with Angela and her. I don't walk into your house and steal your Hello Kitty backpack.
Yeah. And that's in that situation, it's a fair line.
Which is followed by Michael's, and this is another. I love the way he does. Shut it, like just the prolonged shush before he gets it out. That's a great way to deliver that.
And that's something that I could see being very hard to not break on.
Yes. By the way, the eagle-eyed viewer will notice during this interchange and when Dwight shows up, Kevin is able to make a break for it, and he sneaks out and gets to the other party, which is why the next thing we see is him singing Alanis Morissette's "You Ought to Know" with Kevin. Of all the songs to pick, Kevin's got some stuff. He's got some stuff he's working through if he's picking that song.
Have we already established that Kevin has Scrantonicity banned yet? Because it's before Phyllis's wedding. Was Phyllis's wedding the first time we've seen that? Or was this before Phyllis's wedding?
He's been in Scrantonicity because the first introduction of that is when Jim and Pam are trying to look at bands for Pam's wedding with Roy.
And that was wasn't that thing about the Dundies or no?
No, that was they submitted a tape, and then they're looking at the tape and like, wait, is that Kevin?
True. So we did know that Kevin was in a band now.
Yep. This might have been Scrantonicity 2 that he was with that played at the wedding.
Oh, that's right. Not Scrantonicity, which I am no longer a part of. I love that there's just extra side to Kevin's life that we just have no idea about.
Yeah, and his fiancée Stacy, did we ever meet her? Because I think that was another one we never...
I think she may have been in the background of the Dundies, sitting by him. I think we've seen her, but I don't think she ever had a line.
Yeah. So let's jump to the next scene that is hilarious. I love it. Sure, it's casually racist because it's Michael, but he's drunk. And these are two different waitresses than he spent all lunch hitting on anyway. And so he's talking with one of them. And then there's two people who own in the world, those who own houses and those who own condos. He reaches to get something else, turns back around when that waitress had actually switched with the other one. He's like, and my question to you is, do you agree? And she has no idea what he's talking about because she wasn't a part of the conversation. And so realizes, he doesn't realize it yet. But we see it. We see that he now thinks he's dating the other one instead of the one he came there with.
Yes. And okay, I'm going to mention this because I don't know exactly where it pops in. It's another super fan moment. Michael is with the waitress, and they go up to Stanley, and he's like, Stanley is also in an interracial relationship. So if there's any questions, we can ask him. And Stanley just says, dating Michael, you'll have a lot of problems that I cannot help you with.
That's good. I like that. We do have a really nice scene of Angela and Dwight because they're feeling the same way. They feel underappreciated. Dwight got shoved to the side of the table. Angela has no one at her party that wants to be there and has been usurped by this other terrible. And like they were doing things the right way. The Dwight Andy, because there's that Dwight versus Andy thing, right? Because Dwight's trying to be the rival, and he's trying to be that number 2, and Andy's trying to take over. Angela is
number
trying
3.
Yeah. Angela's trying to run the women of the office. I mean, that's really, like, we see that stated more specifically later, but that's kind of her intention. And that's with the party planning committee. She has control over any of the women that go in there. And so she wants her party to be done her way and everyone listen to her. And neither of them had the day go the way they wanted it to go. And then Karen and Pam come in. Dwight, you won the raffle, and he's so excited about it and does the 180 for it. But now Angela's still on her own though, and Karen and Pam recognize and they say, "Well, now it's time. The committee to plan parties has served its purpose. It's time to disband in the name of Christmas."
Nutcracker Christmas.
Nutcracker Christmas. It's like a James Bond line.
Yeah. But also, real quick, to win a raffle, you have to enter a raffle. And would Dwight have entered the raffle?
My guess is that they just entered everyone in the office. Every person in the office, they threw all their names in a hat. That's how I think they get around that.
Oh, I suppose. Wait, what would have happened if Angela won the raffle?
I could see them having not put Angela's name in.
Yeah. Or if they pull her out, let's just go to the next one.
Exactly. All right, so then they come in, peace, trying to make amends. See, I really like how this episode, like, it starts off, it shows these needs of everyone. Like, dumb-wise, Toby needs a robe. Michael needs Carol, and then now he needs actually just someone to go to Sandals with him. And Kim and... why did I say... I keep wanting to combine Karen and Pam into Kim. I don't understand why. So... Karen and Pam, they need to have their own party, and Angela needs her own party, and Andy and Dwight need to be important for Michael, and Jim needs to be his own person in front of Pam. So there's all these wants and needs that they're all focusing around, and then it shifts, and then we see all this like contention of the rivalry. Dwight versus Andy, Angela versus the other Karen and Pam, Jim internalizing his own wrestling that he's fighting with. And then we finally get to this spot where it kind of turns after they make amends here. We see this turning of this resolution, but a resolution that's kind of a compromise that everyone realizes it's almost like bittersweet, that no one really wanted it. Angela didn't want this party to be the way it is, but it ends up working out. And Jim doesn't want to be with Karen, but that's what he's stuck with. And Michael doesn't want to be with these waitresses, but he also doesn't want to be alone. So it's a really, I like the way that that's threaded together. Yeah. And so the turn into the third act is Angela and Karen and Pam making good with Angela and finding that power cord.
Yes. Finding it.
Yes. Which is the other thing. This is the third laugh my mom gave in this episode. Yes, I remember it from like 10 years ago when I watched it with her, and she loved I think I saw it laying around somewhere, goes out, grabs it out of the planter.
Is it this one?
Yep.
Which, okay, I also, as you were talking about what people need, it reminded me there's one more little runner that was I think was Superfan exclusive. It's a Kelly and Ryan. So like Ryan got Kelly a Christmas present, and then Kelly said like, "Oh, I didn't think you were getting me anything, so I got you something. But then when you didn't have something for me right away, I threw it away, and I think they already took it in the dumpster." And then there's Kelly and Ryan in the dumpster outside looking for the gift that Kelly had given to Ryan, and he starts to be like, "Well, I'm not sure if us." And then she yells out crying, "Don't dump me while I'm in the dumpster."
I remember that.
And then eventually they're making out and they're back and they're fine, and that kind of leads into Kelly singing to Ryan later.
Yes, which we're about to get to because I love that moment. First, we have Andy and Michael singing "Your Body Is a Wonderland," and this is when Michael now realizes, because he's singing to one of the waitresses, and then the waitress he came there with rides up to him on a bike, and then he's looking at both of them like, "Oh crap, which one is the one that I'm supposed to be with?"
Mm-hmm.
And then we move to another song, and Kelly singing here. Angie and I, every time we hear this song, we always do it the same way, where it's like, "We belong together, Ryan." Just it's just so funny. Like, obviously she's singing to him, but then she's be like, Ryan, like directly at him while he's trying to drink his margarita, looking away, and like, ah, crap, what am I involved in?
Yeah. And then it go into Creed singing, spinning and reeling.
Not quite yet. We still have, now that Michael knows he doesn't know who he's looking at, he's kind of bragging with Kevin and roaring like, "Oh, look at my little girl over there. Which one is she?" "That's one of those." And Roy's like, "You don't know?" And Kevin, "Dude, you should know." And so Michael has the talking head about Stevie Wonder. Are you going to tell me that Stevie Wonder doesn't love his wife just because he's not sure what she looks like? And then,
which is
hilarious part. What?
Which is not the only time we have a Stevie Wonder reference in this show.
No, he does love himself some Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Probably this might be the funniest guy. I know we talked about that one scene where they cancel Christmas as, to me, maybe the funniest part of this episode, but I think this is right up there, if it's not funnier than that. The whole, where's the girl? Where's is she? Am I drunk? And like him just stumbling around the kitchen trying to get the girl he came with to identify herself as the girl he came with. And when she finally does, "Here I am," like, "Ah, yeah, of course, there you are," walks over to hug her and then pulls out a Sharpie and marks her arm.
Which you would feel that.
You would, but what a hilarious gag. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And
now we have Creed.
Is that when he said when Kevin and Roy are there, he's like, "Well, you know how well he catches himself waitresses look alike?"
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I've always thought that all waitresses look alike. 100%.
Yeah, there's Asia's got a lot of waitresses.
Yeah, tons of them. All right, I know you want to give your little tidbit here about Creed singing, spinning and reeling.
Well, just about, and I think most people already know this, that he's singing "Spinning and Reeling," which is a grassroots song, which was his band that he was actually in back in the 60s.
Correct. Yep. Very brief little moment, but one of the few things we get from Creed this episode. We don't get a ton. We have Dwight and Angela using the walkie-talkies, cheering each other up. Then a great inside joke here. We have Karen and Jim both opening up Bridget Jones' Diary. They gave each other the DVD, and it's just like, oh, what a terrible movie. Apparently, this was an inside joke between Mindy Kaling and Mike Schur, that they both hated this movie. So they decided that was like the joke, or like whoever, I lost the writer's name. Maybe she was talking to them and knew the inside joke, but somehow that was an inside joke between those two, how much they hated that movie together. And so they decided to present that as Jim and Karen giving that gift to each other. And we see Pam look over at them because like, oh, he's happy, even though no, he's not.
Yeah. It's such a weird, I like the pre Jim and Pam getting together, their dynamic. It really was a good will they won't they.
Yeah. And it's understandable too. Like we talked a little bit about like why doesn't Jim or whatever, but it's like internally it's consistent. I can get why he's not doing that, even if you don't like that he's not, because he does treat Karen gets a bad deal. Let's just be honest. She really does. She doesn't deserve what happens to her.
But they do establish that she gets married and is happy later. We just don't get to see that. We just don't get to see that, except for the hot dog picture.
Yeah. And the one line from like 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this is number 3, as you were saying. He does now, Michael, have this scene where he asks the second waitress, "Hey, will you go to Sandals with me?" And it's like, "No, I have school." And so then they decide they're going to take their bike and they're going to go because obviously she starts off where she's like, "This party blows. We're going to leave." And this is Michael in his desperation. Like, no, wait. You know what? Listen, I like you. Let's go to Sandals, Jamaica together. Just very desperate move. Once again, Michael not reading the room and not realizing that she's just doesn't enjoy being there with him.
Yeah.
And then, the best song from this episode, Dwight singing Styx, singing the song Lady. Awesome song. Love it. But while he's singing Lady, then we have that conversation I talked to you about with Michael and Jim. This is the crux of the emotional heart of the episode. Because, there's the Angela versus Karen and Pam, and that does do some plot development for Karen and Pam and their relationship with Jim and all that. But at the heart of it, it's Jim and Michael. And it's a really good juxtaposition of what both of them are going through. And so Jim's trying to comfort Michael, and it does apply to him. It does apply to Michael, but it really applies more to Jim, and we get that great insight. And that's where that top-notch writing comes in. That being able to parallel two different characters' journeys in this sort of way is just a smart way to bring home the arc of this episode.
And it's also perfect because Jim is kind of giving away how he feels, but it's to Michael, who's not going to recognize the whole Jim part of it.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And Michael doesn't even understand the metaphor completely. He does a little bit. He gets what he's saying, but then he does like the whole talking head. I rebounded. Someone else shoots, and I take the ball and I score. He's like, well, I didn't score, but he's like, actually, I'm not sure who's shooting, but what? So like, he's just trying to make it work and trying to. It's one of those things like, you know how someone will tell you something, and you're like, oh, that was so wise. That's really smart. And then you're like, hey, a good friend of mine told me this once. You start telling it to them, and it's like, it sounds nothing like the wisdom that they had, and you're like, this sounds like crap.
You mean every episode?
Not smart at all.
You mean every episode of Home Improvement?
Yes.
When Tim tries to relay Wilson's wisdom?
That is absolutely 100% it. So that's Michael with this talking head. He wants to sound smart like Jim because Jim actually helped him. And so he's like, yeah, let me expand on this metaphor he gave, except for he just sucks at expanding on it. So
yeah.
But then we have him decide what to do with this, and he makes a phone call that we don't see the payoff to until the next episode, but we know he calls Jan, number 4, to ask her... No, wait, number 3. No, 4. No, it is 4. It is 4.
Yeah.
Number 4 to ask her to go to Sandals, and she actually agrees.
Mm-hmm. But maybe Jan, maybe Urkel grew.
Maybe Urkel grew. All of this while Dwight is holding the microphone for Angela singing Little Drummer Boy, which, again, was a song that Dwight was humming in the very first episode, the pilot episode.
I was just going to bring that up.
There you go.
As he was shredding.
So, does that mean they were dating that far back?
I don't know if they were like... Well, yes, they were, because remember, this is season 3. It was season 2 that we caught them making out at Jim's party at his house. So
that's the first time we knew about it.
At Jim's party was the first time we knew about it.
Yes.
Yes. But I don't think anybody... So when did Pam find out? Because remember, Pam found out first, and then Jim found out.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember how Jim found out. I can't remember how Pam found out.
I don't know, because Jim tells Pam, and Pam's like, no, they've been dating even longer than that. So,
yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Maybe she knew pretty early, too. I think it was in second season that she knew. So she knew all through season 3, but I can't remember why she knew. Yeah. Sorry, guys. If you remember that, then you yell at us and be like, you guys are so dumb. But if you don't remember, then you're like us. One of us. One of us.
And even if you're not writing in to correct us, you can always still feel free to interact and tell us things. Yeah. We got emails and Twitters and social media and phone numbers.
We have emails and Twitters. You sound like a 40-year-old person. You youngsters, you youths on the Twitters, get on there and you leave us a blog.
Are we still on Twitter? You handled that part.
Oh, did I?
We might be on Twitter. I know we're on Facebook. We have an email and we have YouTube
Oh
I don't know
man,
what else we're on.
we are just really playing our cards about how bad we are at this whole thing.
Yeah.
We're great
So
guys. We need a producer. All right. So while they're singing while she's singing Drummer Boy, we do get our own little Oscar sighting of the episode. First time we see him since the gay witch hunt. He pops in, realizes nope, too soon, and he turns around and walks back out. Then we still have a couple episodes without Oscar in it until we get to Dwight getting fired and then him finally coming back from Staples, and that's when the same day Oscar comes back.
Yeah.
So when Oscar comes back, Andy leaves. So, one man enters, another man exits.
But then when Andy comes back, does anybody leave then?
I don't think so. Karen.
No, Andy comes back before Karen leaves.
He does. Yeah, a couple episodes. But Meredith. No, not Meredith. What's her name? Hannah. She leaves the next episode. She's gone.
Maybe you got something there.
Maybe Oscar came in, stole Hannah, and sent her somewhere else. I don't know. I don't have conspiracy theories under my belt anymore. Well, speaking of conspiracies, Jim decides to come up to Pam and tells her, "Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you. I intercepted the transmission earlier, and it seems the CIA is going to need Dwight down at their headquarters in Langley." Worst thing that, like, in this episode when they have him standing up on the roof. I love pranks when people don't get hurt, but they have him up in the roof in the cold. They text him, "You've been compromised. Abort mission. Destroy phone." Like, they make him destroy his phone. That, I know it's a comedy, but I'm like, come on, guys, that's not
too
nice.
Much. Yeah.
It's too much. Unless you are buying him a new phone, and even then, you need to buy him a new phone and then cover the damage of the frustration to have to transfer everything from the old phone to the new phone.
And considering they weren't going to buy him a $75 bus ticket, I'm pretty sure they're not going to buy him a phone.
Yes. Exactly. All right, well, that's it. That is Benihana Christmas, for all the good and all the bad. There's not a lot of bad, but there's plenty of good for sure.
Yeah.
So
this is a fun watch. Like, this is the thing is, like, I watched this episode tonight for the podcast, and even though I've seen this episode so many times, I still have fun with it.
Yeah. And there's plenty of great Christmas movies. You're in the holiday season. We got a couple days left until Christmas. Enjoy your time with family. Enjoy watching those Christmas movies. But this is a worthy addition to those. If it's been a little bit since you've watched this episode, great episode. It's hilarious. So enjoy it. Have fun. And that's what we got. So let's look at our trivia from last week, because we're over time now. We'll get you out of here. And so last week, Brian, you had the trivia because we had families or friends you'd want to spend Christmas with.
Yep, and one of the shows that Matt mentioned was The Last Man Standing, and we talked about different characters who were recast. So I said, how many characters in Last Man Standing were recast throughout the show? And it's 4. There's the older daughter, Kristen, who was recast after the first season. The second daughter, Mandy, who was recast when the show got canceled, and then a year later got picked up by a different network. The actress had left, and they recast her there. They have the grandson, Boyd, who they keep aging up older and older, and then eventually, I think the last season, they just forget about him. But he got recast, I think, twice. And then there's the son-in-law, Ryan, who made first time he made a guest appearance, and he was one of the Jonas Brothers. And then and when he came back as a regular, he was a different actor. So 4 members of the family got recast.
Boom. All right, this week's trivia question is asking you, which musical artist received a Dundie because of this episode? Which musical artist received a Dundie because of Benihana Christmas? And we'll answer that next week. Next week, we are talking about one of the best. So I said we're going to be doing like a recap of 2024 television. One of the best shows this year has been on HBO Max. That was The Penguin. Absolutely phenomenal. It's a bit dark, but it's really well done. It's some great prestige television, and I think it's probably my favorite new TV of the year. So we're going to talk about that whole sequence, or the whole series. I think it's 8 episodes, and we'll go over it and talk about the highs and lows, and Brian's going to watch it in that time. So it'll be great.
I wasn't going to tell our listeners that right now I haven't seen it, but by the time I will watch it by the time we record our next episode.
He will. Have you seen the Batman, the Robert Pattinson one?
I have not.
It builds off of that. It might be worth it. I know I just added 3 hours to your watch total. It might be worth it to watch that movie first. It's not completely 100% necessary, but it does build off of events of the Batman. All right, well, until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.